Hello and welcome. My name is Amy Morgan, Associate Vice President for Programs at the Winter Park Chamber of Commerce. We're excited today to bring to you Hot Seat Academy Virtual Edition. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching on Zoom, live on Facebook, or on demand on YouTube or at winterpark.org later. If you are joining us on Zoom, we would encourage you to take this time to do a little bit of virtual networking. Feel free to introduce yourself, share information about your business, or just say hi in the chat box. You can do so by clicking on the bottom of your screen. You'll find a banner with several different icons, including the chat icon. There, you can type your message, and in the to field, be sure to change that to all panelists and attendees to ensure everyone on the call is able to see your message. If you are joining us on Facebook, please drop your comments as you know what to do on Facebook, and we would be happy to incorporate those into our presentation as well. We will have time for questions at the end of this presentation, and we will be utilizing the chat box and the comments on Facebook at that time. I'll let you know when it is time for your questions. With that, let's go ahead and get started. I would like to introduce you to Betsy Gardner-Eckbert, President and CEO of the Winter Park Chamber of Commerce. Hey, Betsy.
Thank you, Amy, and welcome to all of you. We are thrilled to have you with us today, where we're continuing to celebrate entrepreneurship. Now more than ever, we're going to need a set of entrepreneurial skills to navigate a challenging environment. And we believe role modeling is one of the most important storytelling devices that we have for our members of the Chamber and the community. And today we could not have two better role models for entrepreneurship and community engagement. So this series is really about celebrating that part, and we want to thank two great entrepreneurs in our midst who are sponsoring this series, and that is Phil and Amy Calandrino of both Beyond Commercial Real Estate and the Forward Law Firm. So before we get started, we have a quick message from Phil and Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy Calandrino here with Beyond Commercial, and I'm so excited for this month's Hot Seat Academy. John and Betsy Hughes are two of my most favorite people. Not only have I been fanatically involved with Track Shack, having run many of their races, and they've been very much a part of my own personal fitness journey, but they are in fact the actual type of people that we were created to serve. Beyond Commercial exists to serve the needs of business owners and with their space decisions. So whether that business owner is looking to buy a space or to lease a space, or perhaps that business owner owns a building and wants to lease out part of it, or even if that business owner eventually owns that property and wants to sell it later. That's what we do, and that's the whole life cycle of the work that we do for business owners. Of course, my business, which is serving businesses, has grown, and so we do handle work for investors as well now, and that would include multifamily land development, those types of deals as well. But I would say what we're known for the most is our passion for helping businesses with their commercial real estate. So if you ever need assistance, do not hesitate to reach out. Our number is 407-641-2221, and our website, of course, is beyondcommercial.com. I hope that we have the opportunity to serve you or someone that you know soon.
Hi, I'm Phil Calandrino, founder and chief legal strategist at Forward Law Firm. I know that at today's Hot Seat Academy, you're learning more about what it takes to realize the vision you have for your organization, and you might or should be thinking about addressing the legal issues involved before they become problems. For over 20 years, my law firm has helped owners of small and medium-sized businesses manage relationships with customers, employees, vendors, and investors, as well as buying and selling commercial real estate. About a decade ago, after much experience litigating disputes in these areas for our clients, I developed a prevention model to help companies without dedicated legal departments affordably get their legal interests addressed, thereby lessening the risk of litigation and saving on legal fees. Hot Seat Academy attendees who are interested in learning more about what they can do to protect themselves and their businesses can talk to us for free.
Thank you to Amy and Phil Calandrino and for the sponsorship provided by Beyond Commercial and the Forward Law Firm. We are extremely grateful for their support. And I'm at that stage in life where when I tell people I ran 2 marathons in 1998, they look at me and go, really? And I will say that in no small part did Track Shack play a role in my being able to do something that as I get older, I'm extremely proud of. And essentially my experience of Track Shack is much like other people on this call, I'm sure, which is an experience of community, support, and a place where you feel understood and recognized for pursuing a passion in health and running and being outside. So it's a privilege for me to introduce John and Betsy Hughes. So when it comes to health and wellness, John and Betsy's influence is deep and widespread. John began his love for running in the mid-1970s, running competitively in both high school and college. And by the end of that decade, he was the partner in one of the first run specialty stores in the US. Track Shack opened its doors on Mills Avenue in September 1977. John was hired there 3 months later, and the same week he turned 20 years old. By the following spring, John was managing the store and he had become a 1/3 partner. Soon after, he hired a shy Winter Park High cross-country runner named Betsy McKenzie as a $1.78 part-time worker. Wow, that's pretty incredible. Now offering community resources on things we are able to have, their talent in our community, inspiring generations of runners. And we are thrilled that you've brought it together as a partnership. Betsy began running at age 14, long before it was popular for women and before Title IX. That sounds like a grim period. I'm glad we have Title IX now. The girls team at Winter Park High was just a couple years old. In 1983, after graduating from UF journalism with a degree in journalism from their school, Betsy returned to Orlando and the rest is history. That year, John married his favorite running partner, and together he and Betsy grew Track Shack into a successful business while also producing top quality races throughout Central Florida and beyond. And you also produced one of my favorite people, Chris Hughes. So welcome to both John and Betsy Hughes. We are thrilled that you are with us today. And thank you for doing this virtually, which is how we're getting a lot of stuff done right now.
Thanks, Betsy.
So I'm going to start with something simple, and I know a lot of people would love to hear a little bit more about this story. How did Track Shack, or your version of Track Shack, really begin?
Well,
you kind of you really did a good job there. How did it begin? I mean, that the early version was just as you said. It was there were 3 gentlemen that started out this idea, and there were no really running stores. Certainly, there was only one other somewhat in the state at that time, and I was fortunate coming back from college to get in with them at the time, and then it did really evolve into something that I don't think a lot of us, I'll be honest with you, many people did not think it was going to. I actually would have people come in the store and tell me that something like this concept would never make it, and they had good reason to say that. There were not many runners back in the 70s back then, and that just, I think, gets into the whole thing of having a love and a passion, and not to be cliche, because I know you hear just follow your dreams, but obviously there needs to be more than that. But you do have to have a passion for whatever it is that you want to do, and not give up on it. And then finding people that shared that, and most importantly, someone who would become my wife and become the partner that really helped the vision that we both ended up having in the early 80s to make Track Shack a place for runners, both on the retail side, but also to really grow the sport and find people of like mind that really enjoyed and loved running and walking and wanted to participate in events, and from there. But that's the real short version of that, you might say.
Betsy, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, when I was in college, high school and college, I was working, as you said, very part-time, cheap labor.
For that whole $1.78.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. But when I graduated from college, John and I weren't sure really what we were going to do besides get married. I mean, that was our most important thing. We knew Track Shack was going to continue, but I thought, well, I might work elsewhere. I might be doing something in the journalism or public relations field. And right after our very short but great honeymoon, John's two partners, who were more or less silent partners, said, we want to sell. And so John and I looked at each other, very poor, young, but very happy people, and said, okay. And we knocked on doors all summer and got loans and bought them out. And that was in 1983. And it truly has to be your passion, because we worked very, very, very hard.
Well, and that's an interesting thing to think about. At that point, was the event part of the business really in existence, or did that come later? Tell us a little bit about the event piece, because I think that's so critical to that sense of community that you all have built. It's great to sell shoes, but you want to run in those shoes, and you all have done a great job of vertically integrating what you do with those shoes. So can you speak a little bit to how the event piece came online from that historical perspective, and what was the motivator to bring that to kind of where it is today?
Well, I think, so as I mentioned, I was in college when I came down, and of course I'd been studying business, and they're part of that marketing. And so here I was, coming in with all these ideas that not necessarily the partners didn't totally agree, but they saw the benefit of promoting the running store through events. And we were not making money on that, but it was a twofold thing, because it truly was also to promote the sport. We wanted people to get the same great feeling. Betsy, as you mentioned, you did your 2 marathons. That feeling that you get from running, from any exercise, but in this case, running. So we wanted to promote that and promote the store. So the natural way to do that would be to put on some races, have the store be the headquarters for those races. And yes, of course, if you were to participate in those, you were going to need what you need to run in those events. So it worked out well, and obviously it was a good plan. I do want to go back to something. It's so interesting because now you look at what we have as far as social media and being able to connect to people so quickly, particularly, again, as I was mentioning, you have a passion for something and you want to share that with others. There were so few stores happening at that time. And this is the truth. We found this out. Betsy, you and I just found this out like maybe 3 years ago. There was a gentleman who's been in the running industry many, many years. We did not know that in the same month, in the same time frame, August of '77, he opened a Track Shack in the northeastern part of the United States. Again, he didn't know us, we didn't know him.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt. I don't know how you interrupt on Zoom, but I'm a big interrupter, so watch out. But imagine back then there was no internet. We did all this by the seat of our pants. You still had cords on the phone. You couldn't walk very far away. There were no computers, so we had no idea what was going on in the rest of the country except from shoe reps. And then, of course, this gentleman, he ended up with Saucony, one of our shoe brands, and he's the one that shared that story with us a few years ago. It was really cool to hear.
Yeah, we saw that. But the reason I just bring that up is that there are things that you can use to your benefit now that were not available then, and don't think that maybe there aren't others that feel this way about whatever it is you plan to do or whatever your dream or vision or passion is. Trust me, they're there, and don't give up. If that's what you really want to do, just keep pushing it, keep knocking on doors like we had to finally get a loan so we could buy our partners out and have Track Shack continue moving forward.
I love that story of knocking on doors and having all this passion fuel what you guys decided to do. And I'm a historian by training, so I forgive me if I dwell too long on this, but I'm curious how people found out about you in the early 80s. I know running is a small world. My son is actually a real runner, not one where people go, really, when you tell them what they did when you did a race, but he's a real runner, and I know that's a small and parochial world. Did you feel like that was an efficient way for people to learn about you, the parochial world of running in the 80s? And then, of course, I think to when somebody like Oprah kind of democratized running. Can you talk to us about sort of some of that progression of what's happened with running since you all have really taken over the business, and what that's been like in various ways that people connected to your business, whether they were in or out of that parochial running world?
I think, yeah, I'm going more. Usually it's Betsy that jumps in, but I'm gonna just jump in a second on that because that's a really good question. And the way that the word got out, well, for one thing, high schools and colleges, of course, were continuing to compete in cross country and track. So we had that, and we would pursue that. But it was putting on the road races was how we were starting to reach the masses. It was hard to do a lot of advertising because the niche was so small. You didn't want to waste money on, obviously, people that didn't really care about that message. But at the same time, this was a time when a magazine came out in the 70s called Runner's World. And so all of that kind of came together. Suddenly, there was enough interest that there was a national magazine. There were regional magazines. We all supported them. We took ads in those. There were some larger races coming on the circuit in the 70s, Gasparilla, River Run, some events in Miami. And so we started to create some really large ones here in Central Florida. And suddenly there was these groups of large runs. There was elite runners that were getting noticed, and they were then going to the Olympics and so forth. But they all came together, quite honestly. It really hit. And when you mentioned Oprah, when certain things happened that it became mainstream, and Betsy and I will sit and we'll be watching a TV show sometime, and it cracks us up because back in the day when we would watch TV, you'd never see a runner, in the background, right? I mean, why would you show that? Because hardly anybody did it. But you can watch NCIS, you can watch any show, and oftentimes just in the background, there's a runner, right? And we go, look, it's truly mainstream now. It's what people do. It's normal. It wasn't normal then, but then in the early 90s, when the women really started getting into the sport in a big way, and that's also when the big charities started, such as leukemia, for the team and training to support leukemia foundations. And when those two things combined in the 90s, and then getting people like Oprah, and also back then Vice President Gore, who ran in Marine Corps, when those things happened, that just again legitimized it to this is mainstream, this is big. And that's when the numbers that was probably the third, if you will, real boom. There've been two others, one that started with the New York City Marathon, but yeah, so.
Wow, John, you went way back.
I was on a roll on that.
But Betsy, you were asking early on how we encourage people to shop at Track Shack. We had these 8.5 by 11 sheets of flyers that we'd pass out. They were ads that we just created, and we'd pass them out at the races.
Yeah.
And that was, having the races was what we were going to bring. That's the only way to get customers. So we would literally go out, and not just our own races, but just to meet people. And of course we were competing back then too, and that really helped. But you notice I call them races. Now we call them events, because now everybody's included, from walking to running to racing. And that is the best thing in the whole world for our industry. Everybody's included, and it's just awesome. But it did take a long time to get there. And
I've often wondered how you guys don't have much of a social life on Friday nights, because you probably have to go to bed at sort of 6 p.m. to get ready for those events on Saturday mornings. What has that been like, and how many events are you doing in a year to where you guys are actually getting up in the dark and getting those events, going early on a Saturday morning?
Well, I have to tell you, it's really awesome to be in business for as long as we have, because we have employees now who usually are the ones that get up at dark 30, and John and I can saunter in around 5 or 6 a.m. But we have an amazing team. And in 1990, when we realized that the events were a big part of our business and retail was an equal part of our business, we actually incorporated our event side separately, because those employees did different things, and it grew from there. So we used to actually put on more events than we do now, but now our events are bigger, And there's just so much more to it, like in Amy's, I guess, commercial, and she was talking about fanatics. A fanatic is someone that runs all our races in our series. And last year we had almost 1,000 people choosing to do every race in our series. And of course there were other people running as well. But we have 16 local events right now, and we also help produce all the Run Disney events. And then we also have a timing company, and we help time and score events around the country. But right now is a whole new ball game. Everything's changing right now with this COVID-19.
So we really always seize upon entrepreneurship is people being in the right place at the right time, aligning their passion, and then being willing to pull the trigger, to, like you said, go around knocking on doors until you could find somebody who could finance you. So there is a piece of that kismet, that right place, right time, that meets ability and then guts, because you guys had the guts to do it. And I'm always curious, that is something we see from every set of entrepreneurs that comes through and spends the time with us here in the hot seat. I love thinking about that for you. What do you think was the most important ingredient? Was it your passion? Was it timing? Because when you talk about this historical piece, there really couldn't be a better time to grow a running business than over the past kind of 40 years that you guys have been doing this. It just seems like an ideal time with the critical mass that the Disney running events have created, and Central Florida feels like a great place to do that. Do you feel that it's 50% timing or 80% guts? What do you think is that percentage mix looks like? Because I know timing is a factor, but you got to be smart enough to know that you're timing it right. And that's what I think you all have brought to that equation. Do you have a sense about that?
Well, you can't be afraid of hard work, that's for sure. Because you're right, we really don't have Friday nights. We're not the social butterflies.
The other thing on timing, I think, and I think this is a challenge in today's world. We were very patient. While yes, things were starting to happen in those late 70s and going into the 80s, it was still very small. So you have to determine or decide, am I willing to wait several years for this to evolve?
Yeah.
It's what we wanted to do. We didn't, and I know this is hard for maybe some people, but when I say we didn't care about the money, we knew we had to have money to exist. We had to have enough money to continue to put back into the business to have it grow. But we weren't worried about having a lot of money. We just wanted this to be successful. So there is patience that's involved in getting that timing done. But yes, if you want to certainly try to hone in on something that is in a growth state, or that you can help put into a growth state, and make that happen. And so timing, you had mentioned timing and passion. And then what was the other one you had mentioned, Betsy?
Well, just understanding. You all are both runners, so you brought a knowledge base to that, an experience base to that, which I think usually helps.
Yes, there's no doubt about it. And I'd say there's one of the key ingredient as you move forward, and that is hiring really great people. He alluded to, we have a great staff. Without a doubt, never be afraid to hire people smarter than you. I know sometimes you've heard that. Trust me.
I've done that. I've hired all smarter people than I am. I love it.
Yes, it's you just have to. That is one of the most important things, is getting the right people with the same attitude, passion, and that desire to not only get it done but to excel.
So I think people think entrepreneurship is glamorous because you get to, quote, set your own hours. And I have 2 turns as an entrepreneur myself. And I thought they were the most, quite honestly, soul-crushing chapters in my career. But they were also intense periods where I grew and learned a lot as a business professional. What is one thing that you wish you had known about entrepreneurship before you became entrepreneurs?
I think if we had known too much, we might not have done what we did.
I agree.
No one gave us a little book to tell us what to do. John talks about the money, and we really do look back. It wasn't about that. We ate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day for lunch. And then we'd knock on his parents' door late at night when we got home and said, any leftovers?
Love it.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. So I don't know. John and I were really, really lucky, I think, because we had such a great partnership we're not just married, but we've been best friends. We do, you know, get frustrated with each other sometimes, but people always said, how do you work with your husband? And I'm sure vice versa. But it did work for us. But again, we surrounded ourselves little by little with an incredible team. We are like so fortunate with the folks that work for us. And now, of course, our son is working with us. And that's been another challenge we could talk about. But boy, it's been amazing the last few years to watch his leadership and his maturity. And he's probably, if he's watching, I hope he's not embarrassed, but.
He's a good egg, that one. You spoke a little bit about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and I'd like to go a little bit deeper into sacrifices. What sacrifices do you feel like you made to be entrepreneurs? We talked about your Friday nights being sacrificed and maybe glamorous food in the beginning. What do you feel like you've sacrificed for the business over the years?
You know, I'll jump for a second. It's interesting, and I think, and I don't want to be Pollyanna about this or anything either, but I think when you so love and enjoy something, it's so fortunate that we felt the same way about, you know, putting on events. I don't want to say it wasn't work. It was hard, and there were, you know, we would be dead tired sometimes, but we felt that sense of satisfaction. We so loved the sport we were in, and that we could bring that to other people and see the excitement and joy that it gave them. It never, I never really thought of it that way as a sacrifice. Now, were there times that I wished that I could eat something besides peanut butter and jelly? Absolutely. And do I now?
He did ask for more peanut butter at one point. I didn't realize I was doing slim pickings there. But you know, we raised our kids during this time too. Our daughter's 33, Chris is 30. And we thought they had a very normal life. We didn't realize that being potty trained in a portalette at a race was not normal. So it's good we didn't know what we were missing out on.
Yeah. We just loved what we were doing, and we still love what we're doing.
So I love how you've touched a little bit on family dynamics. Can you give us a little bit of a window into what role family dynamics actually play for you guys in running the business?
Well, we're very lucky. Our family, both our parents live in town. My mom was a runner. She did 4 marathons, Betsy. And she's sitting beside me. She's 91 now and still walks our 5Ks. But we had John's parents, so we had a support system in terms of helping with the kids occasionally, and just to believe in us. But our other support system were some of our early employees who they are our family as well, and they still work with us. They believed in us, and they gave it their all. So our family is not just our true family, but our team, our family at Track Shack and events. You can't do what we've done without that.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm interested, I mean, of all the brands that you guys work with, and this doesn't have to be a running brand, but I'm interested in, besides your own business, what would a business be that you've either admired or kind of thought about was a guiding principle business for you all as you ran your own business? Maybe there's a brand, or maybe there's a bigger company or a smaller business in town. Was there anything like that influenced your thinking as you built up your own brand?
Well, we did start a magazine back in the 80s. We thought that would become sort of our brand, but that didn't go so well. We read too many, what am I saying, John? Spoons in the pot? I don't always say those things right. But, you know, there were a lot of businesses early on in Winter Park and in Orlando, but not just businesses really that I would say helped us grow, but we had some incredible mentors. Our CPA, our business lawyer. I mean, they were like our dads. You know, we learned so much from them. And I don't know, John, we can tell you about one business in Winter Park. That's where we met, actually. With the bar, John?
Oh, you know, that influenced us in a personal way, not in a professional way.
It's all connected. I can't think of the name of it.
Nichols Alley.
No,
Oh,
no.
yeah, I mean, I'm going to
The
the
one on,
disco.
the one over on Park Avenue,
Oh,
oh, it
Beacon
was
Bar.
on the back of the first Winter Park Road Race shirt. Why can't I think of it?
Oh, Harrigan's.
Yeah, Harrigan's. I
That's
bet there's
way
people
back
listening today that remember
for
Harrigan's.
anybody Winter Park
I
real
do.
historian. Yeah, that's going way back. I think maybe as we grew a little bit, we got to know some friends in the business community, like Howard and Dina from
Yeah, Orange Cycle.
and we shared ideas. That was good. And as we started to run with people that were in business too, we would always share ideas. But yeah, like Betsy said, because it gets back to hiring really smart people. Probably one of the smartest people we ever have had with us is our computer or IT guys. His name's Mike Swear. And there were no really good programs for scoring big events back then. And Mike, fortunately, was in IT. He was a programmer back with General Mills, which then became Darden and so forth. He literally created all the software, and to this day, he still helps us, and we use his software for our whole all of our local events and the Disney events. So in some ways, we had to be, I use the word pioneers, but there were no resources. There was no one else to follow. So when you can't follow somebody, you have to create it.
I'm curious, it seems to me like, everything you guys have ever done has been well thought through and successful, but do you reflect on something maybe like the magazine or besides the magazine that you think of as failures or setbacks, and what you learned from any of those experiences? Have you had anything that you would describe as a failure in the business and how you kind of overcame it?
Now, I'm so laughing when you said everything we've done was so well thought through, and
It seems like it.
Nowadays, most definitely, it is. In the early years, there was a lot of trial and error, and there were a lot of failures and a lot of mistakes. And I know we can all go back to these things about Michael Jordan missing so many shots, but to the ones he makes. That's a really good point, though, Betsy, because you cannot be afraid to fail. The magazine didn't work. There were other things that we tried. There were products that we brought in the store that didn't work. There were events that didn't work. We did a triathlon series for a while. We actually brought a inline skating series to Disney. There were things that looked good on paper or sounded good at the time, but they didn't always work. But you have to try.
And I think that's the part a lot of people forget. There's VC funds in Silicon Valley that won't fund startup businesses unless the founders have already been through 2 or 3 failures, maybe more. And I think that iterative process is so central to entrepreneurship. And I think people are afraid to bring something to market that isn't perfect, but that's the heart and soul of really entrepreneurialism, is just putting that out there and seeing how it does and improving it as it goes. So I think you all have done a great job with that. I want to talk a little bit about the role of community. And I think, one of the things that we sit in is the intersection, of course, between business and community. And, I know that I've always felt a sense of connection to the community through the events that you do. I feel really good about the causes that are being funded through the events. I feel part of something when I show up to the events. And I felt like a part of a community of actual runners that legitimized my really lame efforts to be one. But and then my son grew up as a cross-country runner, and he was so proud. We went to get his shoes, and he said, "Mom, I get a discount at Track Shack because I run for my school team." And I thought, what a brilliant concept that was, to make him feel legitimized and special, and then to honor really all the hours he was putting in as a cross-country runner. He felt that Track Shack was a place where he belonged too. Can you speak to kind of that whole community piece and how that's embedded in the DNA of Track Shack, and what that is like when you guys execute at that community level?
You want to say it, Bets, or?
Sure. So, you talked about the races, and John mentioned early on about the charity component of our races. And we're parents, and we grew up in Winter Park. So the children of Winter Park in Orlando, Orange County, they're very important. So giving back to the schools for the kids that are running or doing other sports, that's easy. And then with our events, they all have a beneficiary. There's always a charity component. And when we started putting on events that we actually owned, we went out and developed the event, got the sponsors. We realized we wanted to give back to the community in our own way. And that way we started the Track Shack Youth Foundation. That was in 1994. And so now all the local events that you run or walk, just participate in, and quit criticizing yourself. Betsy, you did 2 marathons. That's awesome. All the proceeds for those events, they go to our foundation, which in turn goes back to the community. And we have a board of directors that helps with that, and it's great. But, you know, we're still, even though we're this big metropolis now, Winter Park, for John and I mean, this is where we grew up in the 60s.
Yeah.
It's still our hometown, and we have to take care of everybody, and that starts with the kids.
Absolutely. And I think it's important when you do get into, particularly if you're going to start your own business, and it really shouldn't be like, oh, I have to do this. You should want to do this. We were giving back to the community right from the start, before we started our foundation in the 90s, always giving back to the community, because that's the right thing to do. It's just the right thing to do. And I don't think you should go into it with a thought in mind, oh, if I do this for the community, you know, I'm going to get this back. It's just what I believe every business should do. And then we have been able to do more and more. So we did formalize it, and now we have the foundation and the board.
And not every business does it, John. And as we move toward this more commoditized delivery of services and products across the internet, we see people that just don't see an obligation to pay what my mother referred to as civic rent through the chamber or community organization. So you're standing out even more as you continue to make these investments. Tell us a little bit about what that's been like for you when the chips are down. We've got COVID now, the store's been closed. How has the community rallied around you and come back and said, we're standing with you? Can you talk a little bit about that process since we've been in this extraordinary time?
Oh yeah, it's been a crazy couple months, but because of social media, we've been able to see what's going on in the community, and we've done our best to we couldn't keep our doors open, but we did start an online store, which I never wanted to do, but we also put out a message to everyone, you know, hey, how about gift cards? You know, we're trying to figure out a way, how do we keep something coming in, because we do have a lot of employees, but boy, we got nothing but great from that. Everybody was so incredibly gracious. And every day now, when the stores are open again at the store, we are wearing masks. So you can't read their lips, but when they say thank you for being here, thank you for opening, it really makes your heart smile. It's been a hard couple months, but boy, we all learned something. There's nobody in the world that didn't learn something from this.
Well, yeah, I have to echo that. It's been really touching in a lot of ways, heartwarming, that the response from the community, particularly when we opened up again, but even before that, like, and you know, we mentioned Christopher, our son, he put together the whole online, well, with our team, with our incredible team, both sides helping to make that happen. But Chris spearheaded that, and it was just amazing to see the response from people. You know, it's not like having your store open, but it was just great. And now that it is open, it's been fantastic. And I will say on the event side, we are very happy right now because we had to make the decision to make our Watermelon 5K, a very popular race on the 4th of July, totally virtual this year. And we've never done a full-blown virtual race like that. So this is new territory for us. And so far, our registration numbers are higher for this race, for the virtual, than they were for the physical race last year. So I think that shows a lot of commitment from the community. It also shows people really want to get out there and run. And we're going to do some fun things for them too, to make it a really fun event. But yeah, and you know, I going back to the COVID-19 real quick, Betsy, adapting and reinventing yourself more than ever, as you say, it's been great, the community support, but we did two things. One in the retail, which Betsy, again, for 42 years, we said we'd never have an online presence. Now we do. And it's working out fine. Now it'll be with us forever. the other is what I just mentioned, the virtual, going full-time into a virtual setting. But those are the things you have to do in a business. If you're going to survive, if you're going to continue to move forward, you have to adapt.
Well, I'm thrilled to hear that people have responded positively to the
Mm-hmm.
virtual model. My mom used to say karma in, karma out. So you guys have put a lot of karma in, and it's time for the karma to come out for you. Tell us a little bit more about how a virtual event is going to work. That's really interesting to me.
Sure. So we're gonna, you have options. And again, because we want everyone to participate, as the other Betsy was saying, Betsy, we have two Betsy's here. In that we have an option where you can just sign up at no cost, and we're going to send you a training program and just go out and have a good time and run your run. We have another one that's inexpensive where we get you a electronic bib and certificate at a much lower price if you want to participate that way. And then we'll always, of course, have the option if you want to do get a medal or a shirt or get both. So we're giving everybody as many options that they want, from free all the way to a different price point.
And we have a kids run, a virtual kids run too.
Kids, yep.
We have a granddaughter whose parents said, "Where's the kids run option?" And we're like, "Oh, why didn't we think of that?"
So the kids can sign up virtually, and they'll get sent their certificate and number electronically. Maybe even an electronic ribbon. We're working on that. So, but yeah, we want to have something for everybody, and we're working right now with an IT company that'll work with our IT person, to where it could be really fun, particularly if you carry your phone, that you'll actually through GPS be able to track yourself at the mile marks, and you'll be able to run the watermelon 5K route wherever you run. So it should be really fun. So we're trying to use technology on that, and we want people to actually to go out and run on July 4th, not at the same place at the same time, but all over, because obviously special day, and we want everybody to go out there, and celebrate. So
this has been a real period of creative destruction for people. And obviously you guys have figured out how to make it work. That's so exciting that you're going to be carrying on. Do you have a sense, and we actually did a survey on this about when people are ready to gather in huge groups, do you have a sense of when you might be doing virtual events? I hate it when people ask me that, so I'm sorry I'm asking you that, but I know people are going to be curious about that. Do you have a sense of when in the year you might start seeing live events come back?
A physical event. Yeah,
we read your survey and we participated in it.
Thank
so
you.
We're reading every survey that's out there, trying to figure that exact question out.
Yeah, we along with
was people in big groups. Like we have huge events at Winter Park, like the art festivals that really close Park Avenue, and that's a 50,000 person event.
Yeah.
No appetite to do that till 2021 or a vaccine is available. So, really big events, I think we're going to have a hard time seeing those come online, but we'll see how it goes. Do you have a sense of when and where you might see smaller type events?
We of course are working on it constantly getting updates like everybody else from federal, state, and local, and the CDC, and obviously big events like all the majors that have they all tried to jump into the fall, Boston, New York, Chicago. I don't know what's going to happen to them, because to your point, Betsy, the 50,000 types like those are going to be really difficult, even if things are continue to move in the right direction. What we're doing locally, our hope and what our goal is that our first event will be our celebration of running, which is in mid-August. What we're doing, and painstakingly in a lot of ways, as you mentioned, in fact, Betsy knows we met for a long time today to go over our messaging, both internally and to the public, as to how we're going to handle that. And one of the ways we're going to handle it is we're going to limit participation. So it'll be a smaller race. The most important factor after that will be smaller groups of people starting, and we're working with the city to give us a longer time to clear the start line. So all those things to keep social distancing. We will be, I'll use this forum to tell you, we're going to put it out in public tomorrow. So we will be.
You heard it here first, everyone. This is so
You're going to hear it
exciting.
first. It's going to go out tomorrow. You will be required to have a mask with you when you get to the event, that you will keep with you until the start of the race. You can take it off while you're running. We ask you to keep it with you, and you will put the mask back on when you finish. So you'll need it for any of the post-race time together. Unfortunately, we're going to not encourage you to stay around as long as usual. Just again, nature of the beast. And there will be no kids at this time. That, as Betsy mentioned, the virtual kids will actually remain for all of our runs for right now, for the foreseeable future.
But we also have our training programs that we had to postpone in the spring. And we are thinking that it will be safe to open those again next week because those groups are small. They're 10 or 20 people, and we're going to make smaller groups.
Yeah.
Within those.
We saw a much bigger appetite for people to gather in groups outdoors than indoors. So that's another key ingredient for you guys. So I'm going to let some other people ask some questions here in a minute, but I'm curious. And we always say, well, this isn't too hot of a seat. We don't try to grill you about anything, but I'd be curious to know, what is the #1 performing brand within the universe of the Track Shack? Do you have a brand that does best for you? And you may not want to say, but I have to ask.
Are you talking a shoe brand or
I'd love to know
shoe brand? Because the Track Shack brand's the best. But
yeah.
In terms of brands, if you mean shoe brands, it would be Brooks.
Wow. Okay.
Brooks for sure. In fact, they have some of the better apparel products as well. Okay. But in our running industry world, it's absolutely Brooks.
And New Balance does challenge them. New Balance,
for sure.
But, a good second, but it is Brooks. They're definite.
Well, I did both my marathons with no injuries because of the proper shoe fitting I got at the Track Shack. So I was a New Balance person. I'm going to hand it over to Amy because I know we've got some questions from the audience.
Before we go to fun, Sam just said what I was going to say before we go to the audience, a very important thing always in whatever you do, every business model is, have your vision, have your values, inspiration, excellence, integrity, but don't forget to have fun. This is Chewy, my assistant.
I love it.
So Chewy comes with me, particularly when we do the Disney events, and
I love it.
Always there to help. So always have fun, because why else do you want to do it?
I love it. All right, well, I've monopolized you guys. I want to let other people have a chance to ask you some questions. I know we've got some audience questions, and Amy is a fabulous moderator of these questions. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Ames, to see what we've got.
Okay, great. So for those of you on Zoom, feel free to type your question in the chat box, and you can find that by hovering on the bottom of your screen and clicking the chat icon. Love to hear your questions. If you're on Facebook, as I mentioned earlier, just drop your question in the comments and we will get to that as well. So actually you've all answered a few of the questions that came through already, but we do have a couple comments that I'd like to read out to you. So we had Amy Calandrino, one of our sponsors, join, and she made a comment that she first learned about Track Shack actually through her knee doctor and kept coming back for her shoes until she finally drank the Kool-Aid a decade later and started doing races. She does it for the scenery and camaraderie. And I know that she's a huge Track Shack fan.
We're a fan of Amy's too.
Yeah,
and that sweet little boy.
Thank Amy and Phil for those kind words, actually. That was nice.
Also, we have another comment, and that is that you all allow massage therapists to work at some events, and that has really helped the massage therapy profession grow. So thank you for that.
Good.
Right.
And with that, I believe I've addressed, or you have addressed, all of the questions that have come through, and we don't have any on Facebook right now. So back to you, Betsy.
Well, it is a true privilege to get to spend time with John and Betsy Hughes today. And as I said, we're big fans of the second generation of the Hughes team. Chris Hughes is very, very involved with the Chamber, and we're always grateful for everything you do in the community. You've certainly influenced 2 generations in our household, so we're grateful for that. And I think people really need a point of inspiration right now. So thank you for bringing your grit, your passion, your determination to our audience today. And thank you for everything you do in our community. I'm thrilled that people are rallying around you right now because you deserve it. And we look forward to supporting you as more and more physical operations ramp back up. But you've got some fans at the Winter Park Chamber of Commerce, and we really appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much.
You,
so I want to share with you what's coming up next. And we will not have a webinar on Monday because it's Memorial Day, which feels very normal life to say we're going to have a holiday on Monday. But we'd love for you to follow us on social media, subscribe to our newsletter by logging on to winterpark.org and just type in your email address, and we'll make sure that you get a newsletter to find out more of our programming. But on Wednesday, May 27th, we are going to have a very timely topic called Getting Safely Back to Business, led by Orlando Health. They have just launched a business ready initiative, pulling together hospital best practices and experts. And they're now offering the business community resources on things like proper hand washing, surface cleaning, mask wearing, social distancing, and more. Tune in on Wednesday, May 27th to hear more about this initiative and how you can protect your business, clients, and staff. We're going to hear from a broad range of speakers. We'll have 4 speakers from Orlando Health on Wednesday. We hope that you all have a wonderful conclusion to this week and a safe and happy holiday. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you again to my team for executing everything today. And we look forward to seeing you at a Winter Park Chamber program or event very, very soon. Take good care. Thank you.